Hey everybody, it's Dina Rico with the Creativity Cave. I'm so excited to be stamping with you today because I have a great technique to share with you. It is so awesome. In fact, I literally have not been able to stop. I just love this so much, and I hope that you're going to love it too. So first of all, this is a watercolor technique. I'm calling it faux watercoloring because it totally is. And it is actually something I introduced last week in my watercolor school class, and I really like the technique. In fact, one of the people taking class said, I'm never going to be able to stamp an image again after doing this, just regular, without this technique, because it's just so fun and it's kind of addicting, and it works on a ton of variety of stamped images, whether they're detail images or bold images. It's very cool. So I want to share with you how I did this. It's really, really easy. So I think you're going to love it. And like I said, it works on so many different types of images. So that's really cool. So first of all, let me show you. I have a couple cards. I have this beautiful leaf card. We're actually going to make this one. Just love how it came out, and sympathy cards are always so great to have on hand. Then I made this cute little heart card, and I was just messing around with this, and I know it doesn't look like much, but I think this is so cute and I like it. So then I really got back to, after I did the first leaf card, I was like, okay, I have to do more. And actually I've done several more. I'm trying to think. I have a couple more that I had in my watercolor school class that turned out gorgeous. I'm excited for them to see that. This card was so pretty and really easy to do. I used the coordinating framelits that go with the vintage leaves set that I used before. And then what has quickly become one of my favorite stamp sets is the Totally Trees set. I have an online class for this set as well. I highly recommend it. It's one of those stamps where you kind of look at it at first and you're like, yeah, that's nice, but I don't know. I've had more fun with the stamp set than I can remember having in kind of a long time. It's been one of those things where I got going, and I wasn't even planning on doing a class with this set, but I just got going and kind of couldn't stop myself. So anyway, I'm going to show you a little bit about how I did that card too. So back to my first leaf card. Now, all of the cards are going to be featured on my blog post with photos and descriptions and supplies and dimensions and colors and all of that goodness. That'll be on my blog, so check that blog post out. The link in the description of this video will have the actual post for you. So I have to tell you, I was shooting this video, and one of the things I always strive to do is really make stamping fun, not make fun of stamping, but make stamping fun. And my first take at this was just really dull and boring. And I thought, oh my gosh, they need to have fun doing this, right? I mean, I'm always excited about things, but it just was not my best work. Let's just put it at that. So I decided to reshoot, and I hope that the second time around is better. And actually, while I was setting up for the reshoot, and by the way, I rarely reshoot anything, to be honest. It's pretty rare because it takes a lot of time to redo this stuff. You have to recut paper and all that kind of thing. So of course, though, as I was reshooting this, I thought of something, because, I always like to tell you a story about things that happen in my life. And I was trying to think of what has happened this week. And it's been kind of a crazy, 10 days. Well, 8 days. I live in Cedar Falls, Iowa, which is where all of the flooding has occurred. And that's just been kind of a huge, heavy weight on everybody's shoulders here the last week. And so that's just kind of sucked the life out of things. It's been really hard, but it's also been really cool because our community has really banded together and worked so hard. Okay, but before I keep talking about my story, because you know how I get, let me show you how to do the stamping on this because it's really easy. So I'm inking up my leaf image in some old olive. And the key to the success of this is watercolor paper. You have to have watercolor paper for this to work. If you use regular paper, it will not work. In fact, I will even demonstrate for you the difference. So here is just a piece of Whisper white cardstock. Okay, I'm going to stamp it on here, and then I'm going to use my aqua painter and smear the color around just like I did on my card. Okay, so all that looks like to me is a stamped image with some smeared color. Now let me show you the difference on the watercolor paper, because I hope you're going to ooh and ah. This is the kind of stuff that makes me happy dance. Okay, so I'm going to stamp my image on here. Okay, same thing, full strength. And then I'm going to use my brush and color the image in. And you will see I'm losing a lot of the detail, which is just fine. But I think it looks just like a professional watercolorist colored this leaf and added some of the detail, but not tons. And it's just so beautiful. Okay. And when I keep going, you're really going to see the difference. Okay. So now I've done one, let's see, do one like this. It's okay to go off the edges, by the way. And it really helps. I'm doing them one by one because it really helps to do this kind of immediately after you stamp it. Don't wait for the ink to dry too much. You certainly can come back to it, but it helps. Now, one of the other things you can do, and this is also kind of a unique property of watercoloring, is if you have too much ink on there, too much color, you can get rid of some. So I'm using, this is a little burp rag that I actually had for when my kids were babies. I'm cleaning off my watercolor aqua painter, my aqua painter brush thing, and I can literally pick up color by going over this with clean water, getting rid of that color. And do you see how it's like lightening up? How cool is that? I'm digging it big time. So you can lighten and of course, if you wanted to darken, you can add color back on. That is the beauty of watercolor paper. If you did that on here, it would pill up. You can't wipe over this too much. In fact, let me demonstrate. So here I am. That's my clean brush. I'm trying to get rid of ink. First of all, not much is coming off. But the other thing that's happening is look at how icky that's starting to look. It's getting muddy because the water or the paper I'm using is too thin. So it literally is soaking through the paper. Not happening on the back of my watercolor paper. Okay, but now let me continue on and then I'll tell you my story. I'm also going to do some of the images stamped off. So I got rid of one layer of ink and I'm going to put the second layer right over the top. And when I do this, I get a nice, real subtle looking leaf. It's much lighter in color, of course, because I got rid of half of the ink basically. But isn't that pretty? And I think when you combine the full strength ones with the stamped off ones, you really end up with a lovely composition. Doesn't that sound fancy? I think that's just art speak for a cute looking card. Okay, so I'll just keep adding these, some full strength, some stamped off. And it helps when you go and see, now I got that's some of the paper from my other card is coming out of my brush. I hate when that happens. Okay. It doesn't happen very often because I know not to use regular paper. Okay, but back to my story. So our town has been flooded. It's been really hard. I've seen many people we know have had water in their homes. Many have really not had as much damage as they could have. We had huge floods in 2008, 8 years ago, and I think they did a lot of great prevention to help that kind of thing from happening again. But I also can't believe that just 8 short years later, we're back at this. But anyway, so it's just been kind of a draining emotional time. I am really proud. My family has stepped up and helped out, and I know there's so much work that is still to be done around here, and I'm hoping we can pitch in again this weekend and help out with the cleanup effort, because actually I drove near the river this afternoon and I was kind of amazed that there's still so much water standing, and it just smells bad and it's so dirty. And ugh. Anyway, but what I want to tell you though is my funny story. And that is my son, because of course, yeah, he's interesting. He's 10, and yesterday I don't know what he did. He like hurt himself or something. And I went into his room to find out what was going on, because he was kind of like whining in there. I was like, oh dear, what happened now? One of those situations. He's awfully dramatic for a 10-year-old boy. Anyway, I went in there and he, every time I go into his room around bedtime, I catch him like in there naked. And I don't know what the kid is doing. Apparently that's his new thing, is to sleep naked. And so he's like, Mom! And I was like, for the love of God, put some clothes on. Do you guys have that? Is that like a normal thing? I would have kind of thought as a 10-year-old boy, you would do most anything to avoid your mother seeing you without clothes on. I'm just putting that out there. Okay, I'm going to do one more full strength one, and then I think we are good. I just think this is so pretty. So to finish this card up, this is my sympathy card with Tales of a Naked Boy. I am going to stamp with Sympathy. This is from the stamp set Better Together, and what I love about this set is it has innies and outies. So this is the outie, the greeting that goes on the outside of the card, but there's also an innie which goes on the inside, and so it's nice to have a sentiment that goes on the inside. Now, on my original card, I used the satin trim, and I'm not positive that I like it. So I thought I would try some lace trim. We also have this natural trim, but it has gold in it, and I don't know, maybe lace is just as bad, but the gold kind of threw me off and I wasn't sure. But then part of me thinks I didn't do any speckling on this card, and that is kind of my signature move, so maybe I should do that too. I don't know. It's one of those things where eventually I'm going to get the right combination and it's going to rock. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I just noticed that my ink, I just re-inked my pad, my early espresso pad, and so it's really wet. And so I can see the ink has not dried and I've smeared it a little, but here is where watercolor paper can show its true amazing colors. I'm drying it just a little so that I don't create more problems with it. I'm going to make sure my brush is really clean, and then I'm actually going to pick up some of the color and get rid of it just by painting on here. It kind of is like an eraser. It's amazing. Do you see how that happened? It kind of disappeared, which I just love. Okay, I see a little bit under here, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just using clean water to erase this. Now I'm being careful not to touch any more of the brown that I stamped, but I think this looks good. Okay, I have to say I really like the lace a lot better. Okay, now to finish this card off, I'm just going to layer it up with some old olive cardstock, like so, and then place it on my old olive card. So it looks like this. Very, very simple and pretty. Just love this. Now what I wanted to do is quickly show you how I did this card. So there's a couple of different things going on here. Just grabbing another piece of watercolor paper. So I also, excuse me, like to have several sheets cut up and ready to go. So I have a bunch of pieces trimmed out to the dimensions. I'll have this on my blog. I sometimes get people asking me to put the dimensions in my videos, but to be honest, it's hard to fit the information in my videos that I'm trying to get in. And my brain also tends to not function very well when I'm recording. It's just like Murphy's Law. So that's kind of why I don't do it. And also, I want you to come visit my blog. I want you to check it out. It's awesome. You should come to the Creativity Cave. It's great. There's all kinds of goodness happening there. So that's my two-part reason as to why I don't do that. I'm going to, so this is like the ground image from the Totally Trees set. And notice I got a lot of ink on there, so I kind of got rid of some. Got a little more, gonna get rid of it. And this just kind of creates a nice little background on here. And I love this ground image. Now I also kind of want to fill this color in a little, so I'm just gonna kind of lightly go over it. You can see I can get too much. I don't want to lose the definition of the stamped images entirely. I just want to lighten it up. And now my ground is kind of covered. Doesn't that look pretty cool? I did not do that on this one, by the way. Okay, so then I want this to be really good and dry. See how it's really good and dry? That is me blowing on it, so it's nice and dry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the images that create the trees and stamp them along here in different colors. Okay, so I'm going to start with, and you have to forgive me, I think this is Dapper Denim, but it might be Island Indigo. No, I think it's Dapper Denim. Do you like how I'm not sure? Dapper Denim, we shall see. So I stamped it full strength, and then I want to make sure I have a clean brush before I do this. Whenever I'm changing colors, you always want to make sure you have a clean brush. And then I'm just swirling the ink around, and it's now watercolored. Okay, I'll do the same thing here. I'm going to ink it up, stamp it off, and I'll do another one right there. Notice I have much lighter color this time, and I love the look of both. I think, by the way, it looks best when you go right up to the line, and then you kind of get that dark edge when the water dries, which I think is cool. So try not to go outside the line if you can. And then I'm going to continue doing the same thing with different colors. So I'm going to add the next one in. This is Delightful Dijon. Okay, you do want these to be kind of dry before you stamp them, the one next to it. Otherwise, the color can bleed into one another, and that does not always turn out good. Okay. And I especially love the look on the soft stamped off ones. They really highlight it. In fact, a lot of these techniques I've been doing with only the stamped off images, but I like the variety of both full strength and stamped off. Also, last, I'm going to use Cajun Craze. I know my video is getting long, but you're getting 2 cards, so that's kind of awesome. Okay, so I will do the full strength one right here. And I will stamp off this one right there. Okay. And remember, you always want to make sure your brush is clean before you change colors. And now one other thing I will point out is when you start stamping the tree images down, they will kind of help cover up some of the overlap that might not be as pretty as you were hoping for. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Okay, you really want this to be dry though before you stamp anything, so I'm going to heat it with my heat tool. Now here's another tip for you. See how it curls? Flip that baby over and heat it some more, and it flattens out. I think that's kind of a cool tip. Okay, now I'm going to use the tree trunk type images and stamp them full strength on all of them. Just right over the top. And again, if your tree is not dry, it is going to feather out and you're going to lose all of that definition in the trees. So you definitely want to make sure your tree is nice and dry. And also, I tried to position these so that when I was stamping the trunks, they would at least touch the tip of the grass. And if you're not sure, you can, do a little practice beforehand to make sure you've got the positioning right. Isn't that awesome? And then all I did, of course, to this one is added my little greeting on a little scrap. I layered it up with some cardstock, Dapper Denim, and put it on a beautiful crumb cake card. Now, I believe this card also needs a little something something. So I am going to take my gold Wink of Stella. I'm not a huge fan of gold, but here is where gold truly shines. Excuse the pun. Now, we have to make sure we get rid of anything in its path because it will spritz all over. We're going to spritz this. I'm going to take and tap this like so. And if you're thinking this is awesome, you should so take my Totally Trees class. It is pretty awesome. But when I'm done, I've got some speckles on here. But what's even more awesome than my speckles is the shimmer. Do you guys see that? Shimmer. Makes me so happy. And it's just a little extra something something to your card. But do you see all that shimmer all over? It's so cool. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Now, I have a really cool thing. If you are a VIP, I have an amazing couple of cards to share with you on our VIP page. So if you're a VIP, make sure you check that out. Thank you so much, guys. I love stamping with you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.